and welcome back to Pia Pops Off, a podcast where I talk about everything and anything, usually pop culture. And today we are on episode number 10. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we are already on episode number 10. That's crazy. And today we are popping off about all things Summer House. And we're popping off with my friend, Josh. I bring a lot of my friends, my mutuals from TikTok onto the pod because, they're also creating content. And I want to pair people that have a vast knowledge or a really great takes or opinions on a particular subject that we're going to be talking about. And Josh is a content creator that has had so many great takes on Summer House. And I think that he has very fair takes because if you watch Summer House, you know that show can be very divisive. And I feel like he does a really great job of being like the zen, the balance. So I decided, since I am not the zen and I am not the balance, that we would pop off with Josh to kind of even the scales. But before we talk to Josh, we have a little Pia business to attend to. And also, don't forget, if you're not already, please do all the things. If you're not already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, so that you get informed whenever I drop a new episode, which is every Wednesday. And if you are so inclined, you can always give me a 5-star review and a positive review because all those things help the podcast get bigger. And we want to get bigger. But I appreciate all of the people who have rated, subscribed, commented. I appreciate hearing from you. And just to let you know, it's not going unnoticed. So thank you. Today's Pia Pop Business is going to be short and sweet. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what you can expect in the next coming weeks with this podcast. I typically am not going to be recapping every episode of a particular show because, I want to give variety on what is generally happening pop culture wise. But I have such a passion for Summer House that I decided I'm going to recap Summer House every single episode. And I'm going to be recapping it with my girlfriends, Sherla and Jaleesa. So you can be looking forward to weekly recaps of the new season of Summer House. And on weeks that maybe one or both of them cannot come on to recap, I'll find someone like maybe a Josh or anybody else that is very knowledgeable about Summer House to come on and pop off with a recap. So you can look forward to. And if you have specific questions that you want answered on episodes on Summer House ahead of time, go ahead and you can either DM me on my personal Instagram account, which is at PiaJV, or you can email the podcast at piapopcultureguru@gmail.com. So that is all the Pia Pop business that I had to attend to. I told you, short and sweet. And although we still technically are in the middle of winter, I can't wait. And I want to talk about all things Summer House, that is. So let's get into it with Josh. Hi, Josh.
Hello. We're very excited to be here and talk all things Summer House with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you. So welcome to Pia Pops Off. I have been following your hot takes on all things Bravo, all things, especially Summer House. Ooh, you literally, okay, when I found your account, I think I was actually looking for, because okay, let me just, I'm saying half of what I'm thinking and not saying it out loud. But for Summer House in particular, there are usually very distinct Bravo fans, right? There are usually people who like a certain group of people in the house and don't like a certain group of people in the house. And usually it's like, the Paige, Amanda, Sierra crew. But I like both of them. I like everyone in the house. But when I find that if I even try to defend Lindsay at all, people get really vicious.
Yes, they do.
Really vicious. And you're one of the minority accounts that I feel like give a really fair analysis. I feel like you are just kind of going with the facts of what's happening and situation by situation. And it seems like you like everyone as well, but you're not going to just be well, fuck Lindsay.
Yeah.
Because most people say fuck Lindsay. So
yes, they do. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I really try. And it's weird because I went into watching last season. I hadn't seen the previous seasons. I was just going to start from season 8 and pick up there. And I had always seen the people who, were one team or the other. And I kind of was watching it and I was like, I like Lindsay. Like, I don't know that I really understand the animosity towards her. So then I went back and watched the older seasons and I did understand after
Mm-hmm.
those. I was like, I can see why people didn't like her for a period of time. But in the
Yeah.
recent seasons, I think she's very likable. And I think all the women on the show are. And that's, yeah, it's a difficult thing, especially when you are doing commentary about the shows. People kind of do want you to be on one side or the other. But with
Mm-hmm.
Summer House, I really do resist and try not to.
Well, thank you, because we do need content creators that do just give the information because, like, I think that for me as a content creator, it's really hard. Like, if I do feel like I try to see all angles of things, but I usually am going to have a very clear, like, this is, like, my opinion, and I really don't give a fuck if you agree or disagree, and I think that and sometimes, like, I think people really wanna hear that, like, they wanna hear whatever they're trying to hear, but I feel like you're in the middle where it's like you're a content creator where you're reliable, that it's a really fair assessment of what's going on. Not that's to say I'm not being fair, but I feel like you are very much even keeled. And so I need that sometimes because I'm like, am I like tripping? So like, I'll like go to your account. I'm like, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, there are definitely some shows where it's hard. Like Vanderpump Rules at the end, I was not unbiased at all. I was like, I hate almost all of these people. But Summer House is
Uh-huh.
one where I'm able to be polite to everybody, or at least try to. Kyle, sometimes I border on being a little hostile towards, but he deserves it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before we get too much into Summer House, I really wanna, get to know you a little bit more, and I wanna know how you even got to become a content creator, what you're currently watching, and what you are going to do in the future, like, what are your plans, for this? 'Cause you have a real knack at reading situations, and I wanna know what, if anything, that you wanna do with that, beyond even just TikTok.
Yeah.
So, when did you join TikTok? When did you start creating content?
It was, I think, late 2023, and I had kind of earlier in 2023, I guess, was when Scandival happened, and I had like attempted to do some things then, but I was like very busy in my like real life job and life, and I didn't have time to like really commit to it. I think it was late 2023 when Orange County was airing for some
Mhm.
reason. I got really into posting, and I would defend Heather Dubrow all the time, and that's like kind of a weird take, so I feel like that resonated with some people.
Not a weird take, because I also was defending Heather Dubrow in that season. Not
Good.
a weird take.
I love that. No, I love her. I mean, sometimes she frustrates me, but generally
Last
love
season,
her.
I actually was disappointed in her, but that particular season that you're talking about, team Heather all the way.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I just kind of started doing it. And then it really was the last season of Vanderpump Rules in early 2024 when I really went all in. And I think it was defending Katie specifically that made people resonate with my stuff because from what I saw, there weren't really many creators doing that, especially when I would like listen to podcasts. I remember going
Mhm.
through all the Bravo podcasts at the beginning of that season of Vanderpump, and I was like, all of these people hate Katie so much. Like, there is nobody who sees things the way I do. And I
Mhm.
guess there were a lot of other people who felt that way because it allowed me to grow relatively quickly. I mean, I don't have like a huge following, but I have enough. And I think that's largely because of Vanderpump Rules. And then I was able to kind of keep that momentum going with Love Island because of Ariana doing the hosting there. That was like a smooth
Mhm.
transition. Now I'm just watching and posting about pretty much everything on Bravo. The funny thing is, I always saw myself as a Housewives account, but
Uh-huh.
that's like not really what I am. Like that's what I think I am, and like my username references Real Housewives of New York. But the younger shows are the ones that the audience cares more. My audience cares more about. So I'm very excited
Mhm.
for Summer House because I love talking about that show so much, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people do. So I'm very excited for that. But I'm really just enjoying the TikTok life. There
Okay.
are people who ask me about if I would want to do a podcast, and I'm open to the possibility, but I like being a guest. So I'm glad you asked me here. I enjoyed that and not having the responsibility of doing it with significant frequency.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because I started. It took me a long time to decide to actually launch my podcast because I started out actually on my friend Emily's podcast. She has a podcast called She's Speaking,
Oh, okay.
and
I see
yeah,
that.
yeah, and, we actually did cover, during that time, Scandival. We were I feel like we were only one of the podcasts that were, in the minority with pro Katie. That's actually Katie Maloney started following me, because she saw our takes.
I
And
love that.
because I was really honest. Like, I think most fans, I watched Vanderpump Rules from its inception. Like, I was watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and then the iconic transition into VPR. I watched that
It's
in real
history.
time.
I love
Yes, that it was so iconic. I had never seen anything like it. And I remember watching that show and really not liking Katie, thinking she was mean, thinking she was a bully, thinking she was a hater. Then Emily, on Emily's podcast, we actually were covering uh two seasons of Vanderpump Rules at the same time. So on Emily's Patreon, we were doing a rewind and rewatching. I think it was season 3, and then we were recapping the current season, which turned into Scandival. And those 2 seasons were such a parallel that it was crazy. And then also rewatching the old seasons of Vanderpump Rules, we realized that Katie was right the entire time. We were the immature ones. And yes, her delivery wasn't always great, but honestly, she was correct. She was correct in everything she was saying. We just didn't like the presentation or the package she was presenting it in. And I turned a new leaf with Katie. I love Katie. I think that Katie is the only person has always stayed true to herself, even if it went against the popular opinion. And I think that's something. I think that that's a through line to me with the Bravo fans. Sometimes I think that they mistake women who are outspoken with women who are difficult or a bully. And I feel like we see that a lot with Katie. We see that a lot with Lindsay. And I think our girl Paige is getting that a little bit now too.
I totally agree. It is funny, the Katie and Lindsay thing, because I definitely see more of the criticisms with Lindsay than I do Katie, but I am very protective of Lindsay still, even though I do understand why people are turned off by her in a way that I don't always with Katie, because I also watched Vanderpump Rules only like 3 years ago. I wasn't watching as it was airing. And I think a lot of people did just kind of get the idea in their head that Katie is horrible without really remembering why they think that, and just kept that thought until present day. And then I do hear from people who, like you said, they're rewatching and they're like, oh wait, she was kind of vindicated in everything that she was doing and saying, and it's true.
Yes. No, it's true. And the thing is, I think that we as fans sometimes, and I hold myself to this too, like, I can be wrong. Like, I was very wrong on my take on Katie. I was a different person then. I was around, like, Katie and that whole crew. They're a little bit older than me, but we're around the same age. So I wasn't that mature. I was in my early 20s watching this, and I'm now in my early 30s, and I have a different life experience, had different lived experience. So now I can look at different situations through a different lens, and I'm okay to be, I was fucking wrong about that take. And I think that that's a huge issue, I feel like, with the fans. Like, they are refusing to be wrong in some aspects, and being wrong doesn't mean that, like, oh, like, you're a horrible person. And I just, you know what, maybe I was wrong about that person, or maybe I was right and that person is different now. Like, why can't we let people evolve is my thing.
No, I definitely agree. I agree. I think if more people would be willing to recognize they're wrong about things, there would be a lot less conflict in the fan base. I feel like my thing that I've recently been coming to terms with is that my blind support of Lisa Vanderpump for many years was maybe misguided. But I'm willing to say that. I recognize that. But I do still think on Beverly Hills, she was the victim in a lot of the situations, but not all of them. And I used to think all of them. I don't think that anymore.
Okay. I didn't expect to go into Beverly Hills, but since we're here, that's my journey too. I was a huge Lisa Vanderpump apologist because I was like, I get her. Like, I understand. And I realized, again, like, I'm growing as maturing, that although I do still stand behind a lot of my defense of her when she was on Beverly Hills, I always knew that, yes, did I think that she told Brandy or put Brandy up to putting that magazine in her suitcase? Absolutely. Do I think that she may have that she colluded with Teddy with the whole Dorit and Puppygate thing? Sure, but not the whole thing though. Not the whole thing. Like,
Yeah,
I think that there's some gray in that as well. But at the end of the day, like, these were like silly little things, and they weren't really big deals to me. So at the end of the day, I felt like the level in which the other ladies would respond did not match what was actually happening. Like Lisa had just lost her mom, had just lost her brother. And in the grand scheme of things, like, give her a fucking break. It's a puppy. Like, the puppy's fine, by the way. No animals were harmed. And you did give that puppy up for adoption the incorrect way. Like, you got to be held accountable for that. And also, Teddy, you're not telling all the ladies about this because you feel bad. You're telling the ladies about this because you feel abandoned by Lisa. And who the fuck makes a plan without talking directly to the person? That's your fault.
You're right. No, I will always defend her in some ways, but I think for me, seeing the treatment of Ariana and Katie on the last season, I was like, okay, I guess she is a little more malicious than I used to think. But I did want to show you, I apologize to any audio people, but the level that I stand this woman is that my laptop face or cover is literally that woman. Like, I rode so hard for her. And now I'm like, wait, is she kind of horrible?
I mean, don't get rid of that because that's iconic.
No, never.
You cannot get rid of that. But you know what? The thing is, Lisa does not make sense for Vanderpump Rules. Like, she did in the inception of it because obviously she's the bridge, right? But as time went on, it didn't make any sense for her to be so involved in these people's lives in the way she was. And then it also became dangerous. I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word dangerous because she was really perpetuating these misogynistic ideals. Yep. And the men on Vanderpump Rules are dangerous men. They are, like, honestly, they're Jax, Sandoval. I mean, Schwartz, I wouldn't call him dangerous, but a little bit, because in a sense of he has gotten a whole group of women to think that Katie is this, like, abusive, like, woman, angry woman, and it's still to this day been hard for her to shed that what's the word I'm looking for?
Image, reputation.
Yeah, image. Yes, image or reputation. And it's unfair. Like, she hasn't been Tequila Katie in how fucking long, but yet people still call her that.
That is the craziest thing. That, yeah, when I would be in the trenches defending her, I'm like, can you name one thing that Katie has done that, like, justifies the vision of her as this angry, horrible person? And they'll say, like, something from season 2. I'm like, okay, eventually we have to move past that.
Yeah, like, season 2, guys, was like, what? Let's see. I bet you that was like 2012 or 2013.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
That's a long time. We're in the year 2025. Like, who were you during that time? Like, you know what I mean? You have to think about that. Like, would you want people to this day to still judge you off of a person you were, like, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even last year? Like, critical thinking, guys. Critical thinking. And it'd be different if there was no signs of progress, no sign of growth. But again, I will say this. Lindsay, Katie, even Madison, like, these people that are deemed difficult, loud, polarizing, I've seen a tremendous growth in them. And the fact that people are refusing to acknowledge that, like, refusing, is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, that is very frustrating. And especially with Lindsay, I think a lot of people just completely act like she is the same as she was in season 1. And it's like, she is just not. Like, that's just not the truth. And if she was still like that, I would not like her.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it is frustrating when it feels like there are certain people that can do no wrong and get no accountability taken. And there are people that are still trying to fight sins of their past. And it just honestly pisses me off to no end. And I don't know about you, but especially during the last season of Vanderpump Rules, where we had a really weird thing where there's, like, a small group of people who wanted to villainize Ariana along with Lala and Sheena. I had, like, the same group of people that would come every freaking time I posted anything about Ariana and just, like, be so crazy. Like, I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, did you have any of that experience?
Yeah, a lot of it. I was actually just talking about one of these comments because I was at an event that Ariana was hosting recently, and I was just talking to somebody about how she's, like, still killing it, still doing amazing things when it's been almost 2 years since the scandal. And there's a comment that I always think about. It was somebody who would frequently comment hostile things about her. And they said, this is probably when I first started posting, so, like, October 2023. And I got a comment saying that this person had an inside source and they know that Ariana is about to be done. She is never getting any more opportunities again. Like something's going to come out and end that for her. And I just am like, okay, it's 2025. She's still doing amazing. Like what was the inside scoop that you had? People were so unhinged about it. And yeah, I blocked so many people during that era.
It's just like also it's just like they're like trying to like compare things that are not comparable. I know they're trying to be like you lose them how you get them with the whole like she cheated when Tom was with Kristen situation. And I would always rebut with like I obviously have my opinion, I have my feelings, but in order for me to have a conversation or if you want to have a debate, I try to just lead with facts before the feelings. So I'm trying to like look at the comment and I'm trying to see it from all angles and see if I can actually provide facts of why this is incorrect statement. And I'm like, okay, first of all, context is very important. One, yes, they did. First of all, she did admit that she kissed Tom after years of denying it. And she admitted that to Kristen. And Kristen and her had a sit down and they talked it out where both apologized to the other. However, people are forgetting that at the time that this happened, Ariana had just lost her father. Now we know Tom is the type of person that likes to prey on people when they are at their lowest point. He did it with Kristen. He did it with, I'll even put Rachel in it, and he did it with Ariana. And at a certain point, like, let's refocus and say, hey, maybe he's the issue. What Ariana did was not right? But she apologized for it. And she apologized to the person she affected, and that person in turn forgave her. So why are we then trying to criticize her for it? You know what I mean? She accepted responsibility for her part of it. And now let's refocus and reshift and say, hey, is this a guy that does this to people, does this to women? And let's focus our energy on that. No, we just want to villainize Ariana. That's really weird to me.
I agree. No, I understand why people were critical of Ariana's behavior in the early seasons. I did not like her when I was watching the first several seasons, but it's another situation of, yeah, you're holding people accountable for behavior from 10 years ago. And my feeling on that situation has always been that Kristen has not had animosity towards Ariana over that for years and years. So like, who are random people on TikTok to? Like, if Kristen doesn't care about that in 2020, now 5, whatever, like, it's just ridiculous. But those people are always going to have their excuse for hating. And the thing I want to ask you, is it always women in your comments who say things like that? Because it always is for me. And I'm like,
yes.
What is going on here?
No, it's always women. And that's the part that makes it really sad because it's like, I don't know why we as like women, because like women, I would say, and I would say gay men probably are like the biggest crux of the fans of Bravo, right? And why are we like, because these toxic men would not have a platform, would not have the popularity if we were not feeding them. So it's crazy to me that we are allowing, I don't know, there needs to be a case study on that. Like, why is it that we will come up with all these excuses for them? Like we were excusing Schwartz's behavior for far too long. Like,
no, it's wild.
Like it's not. He's 40 something years old and he's still behaving the same way. That's not cute. That is not cute behavior.
No, and I mean, not to get ahead, but with the Summer House situation that is happening currently, it's also all women who are coming at Paige, and I'm just like, who are you? Like, I don't, and I mean, I don't know your take on that situation. I'm sure we'll get there, but I'm like,
that's my absolute take, and I was a smidge shocked that it happened because Paige, I feel like, is the anomaly in my theory about outspoken women on Bravo and in if their popularity. She was able to do it and not get the blowback that a lot of these other women would receive. And so I thought she would come out of this unscathed, and boy, the fuck was I wrong. Like,
no.
What?
I've been like truly stunned by it. I did not expect it at all. And I mean, it's hard because I mean, I do try to be somewhat like polite with the way that I discuss things on TikTok, but this is a situation where I feel like I'm in a parallel universe and I just want to like shake the people in the comments and be like, are you guys okay? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, and the fact that, okay, so let's get into it. Let's really get into Summer House because there's a lot of stuff that, especially the season hasn't even begun, and I know that right now there's Southern Charm, so we're seeing a little bit of the beginnings of the Paige and Craig probably demise, and then we'll pick it back up during, when Summer House airs. But like what's been happening on social media, whoa, like even like this morning, I saw a couple of stuff from like Madison and Lindsay Hubbard, some breaking news stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this the season hasn't even begun. Like Jesus Christ. But let's start with like what everybody really wants to talk about. Let's just talk about the Paige and the Craig breakup. I am so annoyed. It kind of reminds me of VPR, and it reminds me of VPR in this way because I thought VPR in their last season, like it was set up perfectly. Like all the girls were aligned, and this was going to be a takedown Sandoval and hold men accountable season. And then we just completely lost the plot, lost the narrative, dropped the ball, fumbled the ball. And I thought like, oh my God, like Paige and Craig are doing it right. They're gonna like everybody like is going to be like they're handling this breakup perfectly, and we're not going to have the drama or the discourse that it caused VPR or even the discourse it caused with Carl and Lindsay on Summer House. And then fucking Craig throws a wrench in it, and it's like, what have we? They literally had 2 breakups to learn from. Not they. I'm gonna put this all on Craig. Craig had 2 breakups to learn from and still did what he did. And the audience is still falling for it.
Yeah. No, I know. I watched Southern Charm over the last like year or so and caught up for this season that's airing right now. And I like always like liked Craig enough, but it was really when Paige came around that I started to be like, okay, I really love them together. And I really want to continue supporting him. Like I would love to do that. I would love to feel that way, but I'm having trouble with the way that this is all being handled. And I know the day this is being filmed, Craig is going on Watch What Happens Live tonight. So we'll see what he says there. I'm a little concerned about it. I'm also very concerned that the Southern Charm reunion, which is being filmed the day that we're doing this, is just going to be a Paige bashing session. Like I have a lot of concerns.
Listen, I actually made I'm right there with you, Josh. When I heard the breakup, I made a video, and because I listened to Paige's announcement on Giggly Squad way too many times, and I was just like, whoa, what a beautiful way to publicly end a relationship and give respect. And like, I was like, oh, they're the blueprint. They're the blueprint, guys. Like, you can do this. You can break up amicably and, not cause such discourse with fans. And then, I made a TikTok saying like, I do hope that they, get back together at some point because I feel like we all knew that at some point that this could happen because it didn't seem like they were making any progress on relocating it. Paige definitely, I don't think was going to move to Charleston, and Craig just does not seem like he would be somebody who could live in New York. I don't know. I don't see it. So that was where they were getting to a point where we're like, what are you guys going to do? And clearly Paige got to that point. And so I was just like, okay, maybe if they grow separately for a little bit, that they can come back together and that will be nice. Like that happens sometimes. But then shortly after, we start hearing from Craig or not hearing from Craig, I should say. And it was the silent parts that started pissing me off. Like he makes that really weird like video where he's sitting in front of his house and he's acting like he's some kind of victim, like he's been blindsided. He's not saying that. It's very clear that this was not on his end, that it was on Paige's end, and it didn't read his statement didn't read the same as Paige's statement. Like Paige's statement felt like it was protecting what they had built, the friendship that she wants to have, and his reputation, and his seemed like it was a subliminal attack on Paige, and I read right through it, and that. That made me in that moment be done with that man. Like,
yeah, no, it was, I was kind of split in that when that came out, because on one hand I was like, I guess like theoretically he said the right things kind of, but I agree there was like, it was what he didn't say and the way that what he said contradicted what she said, that it was like, he is trying to position himself as the victim in this situation. I personally don't have a problem with him revealing that it wasn't a mutual decision. Like, I think
Right.
if he wants to say that she broke up with him, I think it was very nice of her to not say that explicitly and let the
Right.
public not know that. If he wants the public to know that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I will give him the credit. He did literally say the words like, be nice to Paige. But everything else about that statement just lended itself to people going after her. And I don't think that that was unintentional. I don't know if it was his like motive, but I think he was okay with that being the outcome.
You know what? I can understand, you know, that's why you're better than me, because you took the video and you took it for, like, I'm coloring in my thoughts. Like, I'm coloring in my thoughts, and that might be fucking unfair, but you know, if I would be like, oh, that was unfair of me, until, you know, things backed up what my initial thing.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, I technically didn't have anything besides that to go off of, but I had this, I don't know, I had this thing where for me, I just knew what he was doing. And although I had no proof of it, I just couldn't, like, I was just like, and I didn't make any content because of that reason. Because again, I don't really want to make content if I don't know for sure. And that was my initial reaction. He is a, you know, fake lawyer, like, whatever. He knows he's planting these seeds. He knows what he's supposed to say, and he knew that he had to have a button of be kind to Paige, so that way he can plausible deniability that he did not send anybody after Paige. You know, he was very kind. But the thing is, it, again, something about it did not read kind. Like, he's saying all the right things, but the feeling is not there. And again, that's my perception of it. I can't be sure. But then then you find out these other things, like timeline and context are so important. If Paige didn't speak up for herself and let us know that, hey, she did actually break things off with him the weekend of Thanksgiving, which is in November. He had then a whole month when he went on a press tour pretending like they were together. And she also but was also honest and said, I gave him permission to do that because I wanted to let him process it in the way that he wanted to, for him to just then make all these rumors start popping up that she has blindsided him, that she has been cheating on him, and him to just stay silent. Sometimes saying nothing says more than saying something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and then he has Austin being his mouthpiece, and I know he was loving that. Like, he can deny, like, oh, I didn't tell Austin to say that, or I didn't agree with him saying that. But like, where are you now? Like, if you don't agree with what Austin said, then say something, because Austin is talking as if he knows it in fact, and that's not fair. That's not fair. And I saw your TikTok where you said you were talking about this exact situation, and you said something like, no, like, when you break up, like, the person doesn't owe you anything, but you are a public figure, and she is being really criticized and dragged. And I think it is irresponsible for you not to say something if what Austin is saying is not true and what everybody else is accusing Paige of is not true. Like, you need to say something. I think that is irresponsible.
It is. No, I think in the most generous interpretation of his actions, he doesn't care if the internet is going after her. In the most malicious interpretation of his actions, he was encouraging it. And it's scary because, as a content creator, I'm sure you know this, like, it's not really a safe space on the internet to say negative things about Craig. I had a video maybe like 2 months ago. I wasn't even saying anything like hostile towards him. It was before the breakup was announced. I was just talking about the current season and the drama with Miss Patricia. And I made like an offhand comment. It wasn't the purpose of the video, saying that Craig like generally has received a positive edit on Southern Charm. And
Yeah.
people acted like I said like the worst thing a person could ever say about him. There were a million like 50-year-old women in the comments like being like don't insult Craig, like he's and acting like which I understand why people think the cast members on that show mistreated him. They did for an extended period of time,
Well, yeah,
especially Shep. But they were like acting like the whole arc of Southern Charm is this like Craig victim story. And I was like, okay, he has been the hero of the show for several years now. Like, that's just not the truth. It was him overcoming that, yeah, the cast members were horrible to him. But he's generally received a favorable edit in recent years. I think Andy is obsessed with him. Andy was obsessed with the Paige and Craig duo, especially. I think that was great for business. And he was right to love them together. But I just think there is this section of the fan base that wants Craig to be the victim so bad, to the point where I feel there are very few people that I'm unwilling to criticize, but I'm like scared when I post something about Craig because I'm like, these people are going to come at me.
You know, because they can be really vicious, and I feel like Craig is like the Schwartz of Southern Charm.
Yes.
It's people don't want to hear criticism of Schwartz. People don't want to hear criticism of Craig, and I think it's because they're extremely good looking. It's pretty privileged, but
Yeah.
in the man version.
No,
And
it is.
and honestly, I think Paige, to be fair, I do think Paige received some of that as well because, and by the way, I really do love Paige, and it's not her fault, but like I said, I think that until this moment, Paige, to me, she would say some fucking vicious shit, and everyone would be like, "Yay, that's so funny! She's so hilarious," which she was. I agree, but then Lindsay would say something in rebut or say something very similar, in my opinion. And devil,
Yes.
she's goddamn devil. Like, and it's not to say, by the way, that I don't think Lindsay is pretty. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's a different package.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
because Paige
definitely.
presents like a very delicate, not delicate and like she can break, but just, I don't know, like she has this more polished, I guess, persona. And it's something that you want to almost attain to be. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, she's funny. So I feel like Lindsay is a little kind of rough around the edges, and so it's not as palatable. And I do think that both women could have been could have been criticized for some of their past behaviors, but it only seems like Lindsay's always gets amplified and sometimes a little bit overboard in the amplification of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny because with Paige, yeah, in conflicts that she has had with Lindsay, I'm not always on her side. And in general, in conflicts that she's had on the show, like I usually am on her side, but I wouldn't say always. But
Yeah.
there is the same people who are critical of me for posting things that suggest that maybe Craig isn't the perfect angel are like, you just blindly love Paige. And I'm like, I really don't. Like, I mean, I do. Maybe now this situation, I think, has made me very protective of her just because the treatment of her has been like obscene. But before this, I don't think I was like blindly loyal to Paige. I criticized her at the last reunion for her treatment of Lindsay. I thought that was wrong. Like, I think, but this situation, it's just so extreme that I'm like, okay, I have to protect my girl, especially
Yeah.
since few content creators are.
I mean, I think, again, like I said, I do go to your page for especially your takes on Summer House because that is one of the franchises that is so divisive. It's so divisive, and again, like I do know that you like Paige, but I did see you like in certain situations between when it came down to Paige and Lindsay, you more favoring Lindsay, and again, that's what we have to be able, like, I can like someone, but also be able to be like, that person was not correct in that moment. That doesn't mean that I dislike them unless I did something crazy. But I'm not a perfect person. You're not a perfect person. No one's a perfect person. So yeah, there's going to probably be a time when that person is not right or like needs to be checked. And I'm not above checking myself or checking anybody. I am not blindly loyal to anybody. I will flip on you if you present a real reason for me to flip on you. I just will.
Yeah. No, I think also another one that for me, not to bring another person into the conversation, but another example in defense of me and not being blindly loyal to people. I had a really major issue with Amanda at the last Summer House reunion. I really struggled with the way that she was acting towards Lindsay, especially. And I, before that, loved Amanda so much. And it's kind of put me in a weird situation where going into this season, I'm like excited to see her, but I'm also like, I don't know, like if it's the same Amanda that we saw at that reunion, she was just like so smug with her and Kyle's relationship. And I'm just like, he sucks. Like, why are you so proud of this? I don't know. I
Yeah.
was really bothered. And I have never in the entire course of the show had a single issue with her. But I was really troubled by her in that reunion. And I'm interested to see if I like her again this season. I hope I do because I really did love her for a long time.
See, I've always liked Amanda, and I attributed some of the things that maybe bothered me about her because of her relationship with Kyle, and I still do. But I would say that I started being really displeased with her behavior at the reunion for when Lindsay and Carl were still together. And I say that because it goes back to why, as women, are we like blaming another woman for somebody's actions? And that was when the hot mic stuff happened in between when they were on break for the reunion. And we hear Kyle and Amanda talking about Lindsay as if Carl has become some monster because of Lindsay. And I'm like, that's a whole other fucking I hate the fact that anytime Carl misbehaves or something happens, it's Lindsay's fault. Like, we forget, like, again, you've watched from the beginning in Summer House recently. Carl was a horrible person. And because he was drinking and doing drugs at that time, once he stopped drinking and doing drugs, all of a sudden, all of his sins past were absolved, and all of the things that he did, like, we wipe away. But it's like, no. Like, it's great that he has acknowledged that some of the things that he was doing attributed to that behavior. But I still see a little bit of that viciousness, that bad, like, thing, the way that he treats women, still in that, and especially in this last season of Summer House. And I'm like, guys, that's not alcohol. That's him. That's him.
Totally agree. I think he's learned how to mask it better. And I think that that's why Lindsay was like being driven crazy last season, because I'm sure off camera he was behaving the way that we all know he's capable of behaving. And then on camera, he's like a perfect angel. And it's like, that is not real. And even
it was gaslighting.
Yeah. I listened to his appearance on Nick Viall's podcast recently, and he was just so like proper and media trained, and I'm just like, this is not real. And maybe he has worked on himself. Like, I don't want to say that that's not possible. It is.
Yeah.
But we all know what he has, that he is capable of, and I don't think that he has outgrown that. Yeah, like from last season, that's what I'm basing that on. I was not Team Carl at all.
I saw your take on that, and I couldn't have agreed more. I don't believe that he canceled all his podcast appearances during that time because he didn't want to continue to stoke the fires. And yes, like you said, content creators like ourselves would have picked everything apart as we should. I don't think he had the media training yet and was not able to receive it fast enough to be able to handle those set appearances that were coming up. And because the couple that he did were already falling the fuck apart. And to be honest, he made the right call to just stop, because who then picked up the talking for him? The master manipulator himself, Kyle Cook.
Yeah.
He was like, they always talk about Lindsay PR. Let's talk about Kyle Cook. That man is an amateur PR person if I've ever seen one. That man can spin a motherfucking narrative like I've never seen before. Like, Lindsay, again, like I've said this before, like, no shade to Lindsay. Like, if she, like, they keep on saying she's in PR, that's why, like, everything is PR, like, then she's horrible at it.
I know. I thought too. If she was a PR expert that everyone makes her out, and I'm not saying, like, not dismissing any professional, like, accomplishments that she has had.
Yeah, like, that's not like a hater, but like,
no, she would have a better perception from the public if that was true.
Exactly. And the thing is, she could be a really great PR person for someone else, because it's really easy to like see somebody else and be like, I know exactly what to do for you. And I think that's what she kind of did with Carl. Like, she could see the vision. And that's, I think, why a part of her frustration, like with the brick and mortar for this sober bar and all these things. Like, I think that I have a problem with doing this too. And I have to like understand that, like, sometimes when I say something, it could be perceived as harsh, but that's not what my intention was. It's just like, in my head, I just want to get the information out to you. And it's not, and I didn't realize that it just sounds like I'm just like saying it at you without any care, but it's just more because I'm just like want to get the idea out to you. And so I think that's like when Lindsay is just like telling Carl, like, oh, that's not going to make sense. Like, she's just literally just trying to give him the facts of it. And yet maybe as a partner, that's just not what he was looking for. But that two things could be like, you can just communicate that, but let's just make her into like, that was in her mind, her being a caring partner, but that is not how he needed a caring partner to be. And that's okay too. But then to latch on and then like essentially plant seeds and go to someone who like Kyle and essentially have him fight your battles and like telling Lindsay one thing and telling Kyle something completely different. It's not fair. And he did that also the prior season when he was pissed with Kyle. He would tell Lindsay like all these negative things, like the worst experience of my life working with him. And then Lindsay would speak up for him and then sits back and lets her get the brunt of it.
No, I totally agree. I was just watching the season 8 reunion, and I was bothered by it at the time, but it stood out to me even more now. The way that Kyle just completely hijacked the entire conversation of Carl and Lindsay, where they are supposed to be working everything out. And it's actually kind of crazy to me that Andy didn't intervene now, having watched it back. Because
Yeah.
Kyle just completely took over. And it's like, yes, you're an OG. You're still a cast member like everybody else. Like, this is their time to talk about their issues. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many problems with Kyle, but I was.
Oh, I made a video after because Kyle was, to me, I was more mad at Kyle than I was even Carl.
Yeah.
Because Kyle to me led the charge of of this whole whole division with the cast, in my opinion. Because I get it. Kyle and Carl are closer. But you know that the women have a really long and complicated history, and you're not helping. And at this point, at the end of the day, Carl and Lindsay are two consenting adults that entered into a relationship and it didn't go well, right? And instead of trying to play mediator, you're trying to attack Lindsay. And that's not fucking fair because at the end of the day, you would not want that to be done with you and Amanda. And I know he's going to say, well, Lindsay did intervene. That's not, and I will to this goddamn day say that's not true. It was Danielle.
It's always Danielle.
I hate this narrative. It was Danielle because what the instance that Kyle and Amanda are holding a grudge about is when Lindsay repeated a rumor that she heard. She did repeat a rumor. She repeated it to Danielle. That was when Lindsay had made the decision to try to make amends with the women and become friendly. Danielle was not ready to do that. Danielle is a very possessive person, and we've seen that with Lindsay. And she did not like that she was becoming friendly with Paige and Amanda. So then, you know what she does? She goes to Paige and she repeats what Lindsay had told her in privacy and then put Paige in a position where then she had to confront Lindsay and give her an ultimatum of telling Kyle. That is what the fuck happened.
Yeah. No.
Lindsay was not going to make this a storyline and actually was pissed off about it.
No, when I was rewatching this season I've just been popping through trying to get ready for the new season. And I was watching when Carl and Lindsay get engaged and Danielle's reaction to that. And I was just like, thank God Danielle is not on the next season. Like, I really don't think I can handle her. And she's somebody who she's one of the people that I think I have trouble being empathetic towards when I'm talking about the show. And I feel bad for that on some level. But I have so many problems with her also.
Yeah, I think that people were fooled by Danielle for a while because, again, you have this polarizing person, Lindsay. She's a tornado. And it's easy to not realize that also somebody who's fueling and gassing up Lindsay is a Danielle. And I think it's when Danielle went on Winter House and there was no Lindsay at all. And she was being really aggressive towards a lot of people in the house, like Jordan from Martha's Vineyard and I forget his name, the guy that she was really into from Below Deck that was not into her. And that's when I think her, people started realizing, is Danielle the fucking problem?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I'm curious to know if you feel that Gabby is now the same, because I don't. I love Gabby and Lindsay's friendship. I think that Gabby's a really good friend and doesn't do the same things to her that Danielle did. But I do see a lot of criticism of Gabby that she is just like a puppet of Lindsay. And I kind of see where that's coming, but I like her so much more in that role than I did Danielle.
I don't think it's the same situation, but I do understand why people are drawing that comparison. And I do think that Gabby will need to, especially this season, really branch off. And I want to see more from her that's outside of her friendship with Lindsay. That not to say to abandon Lindsay, but that can't be everything, right?
Yeah, no, she needs to prove herself as her own human.
Yeah, we definitely need more from Gabby. But in regards to her defense of Lindsay, I think it's more fair than Danielle. Danielle did have blind loyalty. I would say that Danielle escalated the whole Sierra fight. I would say that.
Yeah.
Between Lindsay and her, when glass was thrown. I think that I have seen Gabby be critical of Lindsay also, though. And I don't, the only time I really had seen Danielle be critical of Lindsay was when it didn't benefit her.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's the difference.
exactly. I agree. I hope that we see more of Gabby this season, but then the trailer didn't make me optimistic because she was hardly in it. But it's hard because I do really like her, and I just think that I don't think Bravo wants to prioritize her, unfortunately. So I don't think they
Mhm.
will. And I don't, maybe that's because she's just not that interesting, and maybe they know better than we do. But I like
Mhm.
would love to see them like attempt to make her more of a main character on the show. But I don't know that it's gonna
And
happen.
but I do think that she's not getting priority, but at a certain like for these shows, you have to make yourself be a
Yeah,
priority. So you cannot like you have to. She just has to be. She has to do more. She just has to do more. She has to figure it out because if she has something that interesting that happens, they will shift those cameras right over to her. So
that's true.
she like I don't want to lose her because I think that there is so much potential there. But I think that this will be the season that will find everything out. Like
Yeah.
if I think this is her last
I
attempt.
was honestly surprised they brought her back for the season. I thought that she didn't do not that I thought, but I thought the network would think that her and Danielle, it was their time to go. I guess they
Mhm.
only thought that about Danielle. I'm glad she's getting another opportunity. And yeah, we'll see if she can make it count. I hope so, because I really do like her.
Yeah, no, I hope that she proves this wrong. Did you like Maya from a couple seasons ago? Because I did not.
I didn't not like her. I feel like she was just a body in the house, unfortunately. Like, I just didn't, like, I did not feel strongly one way or the other. But those seasons also for me are just like weird in general. Like, it was just a
Mhm.
strange era for the show. And I wonder if she would do better now that the show is in a better place. But I don't know. I didn't have strong feelings, honestly.
I thought she got a little, like, full of herself because she kinda got, like, I don't know, like, her first season, I was indifferent, and then I kinda liked her towards the end, and then I feel like that was kinda the shift everybody had with her, like, they were indifferent, and then we kinda liked her at the end, and I feel like sometimes when someone gains some popularity, I think Wes, is one of those people, um, they don't know what to do with that,
Yeah.
and then they make and also Bryn would probably be a person that had that happen to as well. And then you start disliking them a lot. And when she kind of went after, what's her name? The one that dated Craig's friend, that
The blonde,
the blonde. I cannot remember her name right now.
Sam.
Oh, Sam. I feel like I like the way she kept on going after Sam. I was just like, I don't like that.
It
I
was
don't.
just a weird season, and I'm kind of glad that they just like cut a bunch of them and were like, we need to move on. And the show is
Yeah.
in so much better of a place now that they did that. And I feel bad for people like Sam because not really, but like, I don't know, on some level, like, I feel like Bravo just completely was like bye and never heard from them again. They're not even really ever appearing in flashbacks or anything. Like, they're just kind of erased from history. But also,
Yeah.
it wasn't a great time for the show, so I understand it. I do always think about how a couple years ago at BravoCon, the guy Corey, I feel
Oh,
like
Corey.
got
Yeah.
so much attention at BravoCon because he was like wearing some like crazy outfits or something. And I hadn't watched Summer House at the time, so in my head, I'm like, this guy must be like so important in the like Summer House universe. And then I watched it and I was like, wait, he was like a friend of for like one season. Like, why?
Yeah.
It's just such a weird era of the show, and I'm so glad that it's in a better place now. I think it's one of the best shows on Bravo right now.
Yeah. You actually know, did you know that Corey tested for Southern Charm?
Interesting.
Yeah, and they did not it didn't work out. So I feel like he really thought this was about to be his moment.
Well,
But I think there's a reason why it didn't work out. I don't think he has it.
I don't
I don't
think he
think
was that interesting.
no, not at all. Like I something about him felt icky. I personally was not into him at all. So I was very happy that that was like we cut him out. Yeah, I kind of equate that whole season of Summer House with remember that like really odd season of Vanderpump Rules where they introduced way too many new people. We were like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
happening?
no, that's actually a really good comparison. And again, like this season of Summer House, just no one ever talked about those people again. It was like, okay, that's enough. I guess Dana still is around and in the same circles as the cast, but
Yeah.
otherwise, like, who knows what those people are doing with their lives? I definitely don't.
Well, I know that VPR is not coming back in the same way with the same people. Well, I mean, I understand why. I was going to say unfortunately, but I mean the writing was on the wall. But before they made the announcement, I was like, if they do bring VPR back, they needed to do a bit of a cast shakeup. And one of the people that I wanted them to bring on was Dana, just because I did think that they needed more of a balance. So they, like Katie doesn't really hang out with Lala and Sheena. So I think that was a really huge problem in last season, where it was just like, again, these people are in different places in their lives. And so it was like you're forcing them to do these really inorganic things. And so I feel like if they balanced it with more people that they were actually hanging out with, we would have had a much more interesting season. Like, think if Dana was a part of last season, she would be calling out all of that fucking behavior that Sheena and Lala were participating in. Like, I think it would have made for a much more interesting season. But alas, we're rebooting and we'll see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic, but we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise us.
Maybe. But back to Summer House. Also, okay, well, I'm going to transition it a little bit. The whole, they don't show this. I don't know if there's a way to show this, but you know how Summer House started, right?
Like the
first season?
The Vanderpump transition.
Yes, that also. I was like, they did it again to me. That was another iconic transition in Smart, and I know they tried to do that with the Valley. I didn't think it was as good, but I think that is so funny that all of these, and I think, like you mentioned earlier, like the younger shows are like at the more popular ones, and it's because there are these connections and they actually are friends. And so I feel like we're going to see the friendships again this season, in the upcoming season with Summer House. Like, it seems like people are actually getting along together and they actually want to be together.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that. I will say, just about the transition, I watched Vanderpump a long time before I watched Summer House, but when I got to that episode on Vanderpump Rules, I did watch the beginning of the Summer House premiere. And I remember thinking I really didn't like the twins. And I was like, oh, well, I shouldn't watch Summer House because I don't really think I would like them. Then comes to find out they were on a 1 season or 2 seasons. And I was like, oh, okay, that was not a reason to not watch Summer House.
That is so I never liked the twins either. And it's so funny because the show was really built around the twins. And
they were set up to be the stars. And I almost respect the fact that Bravo just knew it wasn't working and was like, okay, bye.
Yeah, no, that is so funny because that show was literally set up around those twins, and no one has even thought about them.
I could not. I don't know if they're in the country. I don't know what they're doing with their lives. I mean, I hope they're well, but yeah, no, they are very irrelevant for people who were supposed to be the stars of the show.
That's funny. And then it's fun because then Lindsay was just like a side character, and it was just so clear, and Kyle too. It was just so clear who had that star potential early on and who has stuck around this entire time. Kyle and Lindsay, the OGs, they've been here. And then, and then you had Hannah and Paige come in a couple of seasons later. And it's just so interesting when you find the right people and they just have it. And that's, going back to Gabby, I'm like, I want that to be you as well.
But, I know, but I don't know if it is. Yeah.
Oh, I hate that, but I want it for her so bad.
Me too. When I tell people to watch Summer House now, I've started saying, if people are concerned about the amount of seasons, even though it's not that many, but if they express any kind of concerns, I'm like, just start with season 3. That's the real start of the show, in my view. You don't need to see the twins. You don't need to see whatever's going on with Everett. We're good on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's actually a fair point. 3 is where they know exactly what they're doing. The show knows what it's doing. That 3 is a great place to start. I actually, it's also 3 is a really great place to start for VPR if that's where everything is really well. Actually, all the first 5 seasons of VPR are actually they're so good.
It's history.
Wait, what did you say?
It's history. Those
it is history. Like Kristen or Stassi backhanding Kristen, it's great. That was when reality TV was reality TV. So okay, so going back to Summer House, who do you think is going to have a good and bad season? Who do you think?
I'm choosing to believe, I'm being optimistic, and I'm saying that all of the girls are going to have a good season because from what I'm seeing on social media, it seems like they were all aligned. I think that as we've been discussing, the Lindsay versus Paige stuff, I think that for a long time, that was an intentional divide created by people like Kyle because they didn't want the girls to be friends. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that they maybe finally understand that and can overcome that. I think West and Jesse are going to have bad seasons. And I know
Mm-hmm.
people have said something happened with Jesse. I don't know anything about that, but just they're going to have their sophomore flop seasons. It has to happen. The audience liked
Mm-hmm.
both of them way too much the first season for them to not have a bad second season. But I think they'll both overcome it. I think both of them are here to stay, but I think
Yeah.
people aren't going to love them. I don't know that I think Kyle on some level is going to benefit from the fact that he cut the mullet and he was so like horrible last season that I think if he's even a little bit tamer by comparison, he'll benefit from that. And he
Mm-hmm.
never gets bad at it. They always are polite to him with the way that they present him. So he'll have a good season. Kyle, the girls will have good seasons. Wes, Jesse, bad. I think Carl will probably have a bad season because I don't understand why he's still there. But those
I
are
I
my
mean,
predictions.
I agree with you. I think that is although I was really hoping for a Kyle takedown season, I just don't think it's
I
gonna be in the
want it so badly, but it's just not going to happen. I think
Yeah,
we have to give up on that dream.
that's not gonna happen. It's not in the cards. And I think it's not in the cards because other people probably did worse things. And so I think a lot of whatever if Kyle did anything, it's going to be overshadowed by especially Wes and Jesse, whatever is happening there. Because I did hear some stuff about Jesse.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. Like, I'm not really sure. Like,
Yeah.
but I think that that's going to be the main focus. And I think Carl will have a bad season in the sense of I think it's going to be a season that reveals that because I think because Lindsay is pregnant, and from what I've been hearing, Lindsay was like super nice to Carl in the house, which I'm like shook and shocked about. But again, she's pregnant, so maybe she just put her in a different headspace, like you know what I mean. But I think that that's going to make it impossible for Carl to be like she's picking on me or like I don't think we can like relax or like fall back on Lindsay's the villain. So now we're going to be like, because I was saying like when all of everybody was like against Lindsay, I was like, I kind of want her to sit out this season. So, okay, fine. Lindsay's not here. Y'all love Carl so much. What does Carl provide? Like, let's see what he provides besides his like tiff with Lindsay or the back and forth. I want to see what Carl provides. Are you entertained by this man or is he just taking up space? Like, and you don't have to be drinking to be entertaining. Like
No?
you do not. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we're going to find out that he's not providing much. And
Yeah.
now what?
I mean, I personally feel like that's been the case, but I think, yeah, he had, I guess last year the last few years, yeah, it was all the Lindsay stuff kind of shielded
Mm-hmm.
him from the criticism of being boring. But yeah, now there's no shield, so I guess if they're still having conflict, but I don't know. I'm ready for him to go. And I see a decent amount of people, I don't know how you feel about this, saying that they are ready for Kyle, Lindsay, and Carl all to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily feel that way about anybody except Carl. I think that Kyle and Lindsay still have things to offer. And I say that as
Yeah.
somebody who strongly dislikes Kyle
Mm-hmm.
generally. But
Yeah.
I don't know that Lindsay should continue on this show necessarily. I think if they did transition her to Housewives, that would be a good move. But Carl is the only one of the OGs that I'm like, we've seen enough of him.
Yeah.
I'm not excited to see him more.
I agree with you. I don't think that we should lose Lindsay or Kyle as much as I have criticism for Kyle. Because again, I actually really did like Kyle. It's just the fact that I just think it's really hypocritical to not hold him to the same standards that Lindsay is being held to. Because I think that honestly, it's very parallel and comparable their behavior. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, like they're very explosive people when they're drunk and they are a lot, but yet Kyle gets no repercussions for his actions. Like he's like chronically cheated on Amanda in the beginning of the relationship, and somehow that's Lindsay's fault for it somehow being on the show. Like not the fact that he did it at all or allegedly did it. Like I'm confused by that. Okay. Lindsay didn't make you kiss that girl blacked out. That's not on
No,
her.
she did
Um,
not.
she didn't do that. Like Amanda, you wanted to marry that man. That's on you, babe.
I will say, sorry, on Amanda, I did mean to say this earlier, but I think part of the reason that I do remain like somewhat empathetic towards her is that I do remember before Katie and Schwartz broke up, there were people who I feel like said similar things about Katie to what they say about Amanda now, of like, she's never
Hmm.
gonna learn, like it's a lost cause. And I obviously Katie has blossomed out of that relationship. And I don't know that Amanda would ever not be with Kyle, but I think it's kind of also similar to Brittany. I think Brittany was treated not great by fans because they just thought that she was going to stay with him forever. And I understand why people don't like Brittany. I'm not saying that she's
Yeah, yeah,
comparable,
yeah.
but like, I don't know. I don't think we can give up on these people just because they haven't seen what we see. I think maybe she
I
will.
wholeheartedly agree. I get frustrated with Amanda because I feel like a lot of her anger is misguided
Yeah.
and towards other people, that the energy she again that has been giving towards Lindsay. I think that energy should be geared toward the person it belongs to, which is Kyle. But I get it. They're married. She at technically she can't really keep holding on to something that she has decided through legal
Yeah.
marriage to move past. But then she really just needs to move past it. I honestly think that we shouldn't be talking about it in regards to Lindsay, unless Lindsay is still doing that behavior, which I don't I don't think she is. And also, on the whole Amanda, Kyle, and Lindsay thing, I feel like no one remembers that fact that Lindsay was the only person during the time that in the house that Kyle and Amanda was getting married that was vocally supportive of their decision, because that was when Hannah, the season Hannah and Amanda stopped being friends, because Hannah, she couldn't support the relationship because she in her, like, she just didn't like the way that Kyle was treating Amanda. And she's the type of friend that is going to, like, I think she kind of builds up resentment for then the friend that she's trying to defend. And I am not defending Hannah's behavior, because I personally was very annoyed with her that season.
Yeah.
Now learning some other things that happened outside of filming, I can understand why maybe she was a lot more annoyed with Kyle than I understood at the time. But like, Lindsay was very vocally supportive of them, and I don't think they credit her enough for that.
No.
Even more so than Paige. Like, I feel like she was like, okay, you guys have made this and I think that's what also pissed Lindsay off when she was getting a lot of criticism when she was during the season that her engagement fell apart with Carl. She stayed out of it. She didn't give an opinion. She didn't try to tell them to break up. She supported them because that was the decision she made. They made, and she was like, "I'm going to respect it. I'm going to respect it, and I'm going to also go above and beyond to celebrate you." And that was not something that cast did for Lindsay, and that was my biggest thing. I was like, guys, like, we all might not think this is going to last, but that's a decision that they fucking made. So, like, why are we all being like this? Like, you guys are like inserting yourself way too much in this.
Yeah, no, I think Lindsay can be a very loyal and good friend, and it's never reciprocated by almost anybody. And it's hard to watch at times, but
Yeah. And I feel like, I know I do sound like such a big Lindsay, like, apologist, but it's just because I don't get the opportunity to give her all of the criticisms that I really want to give her, because I feel like no one ever acknowledges some of the stuff that they claim that she doesn't do. Like, she's not a good friend. She has never been a good friend to Danielle. Oh, but then she was, because she let a whole reunion when she wasn't friends with Danielle go by, and she did not tell you guys that Danielle was the person that leaked that story about Craig to the tabloids, and she sat and didn't say anything. That was her being a good friend to Danielle, even when they were not in a good place. But no one brought that back up.
no,
I'm like,
they
I need
still
people to
twisted
bring.
it to make out Lindsay to be in the wrong. So I don't even remember how, but somehow when she revealed it eventually, it still was that Lindsay's in the wrong for doing that. I felt crazy watching that. No, it is so wild. I'm hoping that we can get a season where everyone is fair to Lindsay this year.
I think that we, like, just from the, like, little stuff that I've been hearing on social media, I truly think we did. I actually, before we hopped on, I was just trying to go through, see if there's any, like, new content with anything Summer House that we could talk about, which there was. There's a lot of stuff. And I happened to see, I think it was like a Page 6 little interview with Paige, and she was talking about how she tasted Lindsay's breast milk.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did. That's an interesting thing to do. But yeah, she said in the video my good friend Lindsay Hubbard. And I was like, you're what? But like,
She
thank
with like,
God.
and not in like, because in the past when they're trying to get along,
Yeah.
they it's very clear that they're trying to get along,
Yeah.
right? In interview bites, this seems so genuine. Like she was like, no, my good friend. Like she was so proud to say that.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if the reason why, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons why I think that Paige and Lindsay maybe are finally in the place to have a genuine friendship and actually move forward from their past. I think one, Lindsay being pregnant is, softened everybody, which is like what we needed. And also now now we find out that Paige and Craig are broken up. It could possibly be the fact that she doesn't have, because Craig obviously never really liked Lindsay. And if you already have like kind of a weird history with somebody and then you have somebody who does not like that person either, you kind of like are in this hate bubble. And I think that's always been a thing that I thought has happened with all the girls. Like they've had their like individual things with Lindsay, right? And then it seemed like they would all try to move past it and they would be fine with her on an individual basis, but then they would get together and it would just start itself all back up again. And I think that possibly Paige, like breaking up with Craig, kind of made it easier for her to let Lindsay in, or even to see a perspective of what happened between Lindsay and Carl that she wasn't able to see when it was happening.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I think I'm not going to feel good about it until we get to the reunion and they're on good terms because, yeah, it's always at the reunion, all the progress goes away. But
I
I'm
know.
optimistic. I think it's going to happen. And I feel so good about it. Like, war is over. Our
Mm-hmm.
girls can finally be together.
Yeah, and I don't remember where I read this or where I saw this, but Lindsay did say that I think she was asked out of the cast who has been like really checking up on you since you had the baby, and she said Paige.
Wow. I love that.
So, okay, like again, I know like we're trying to protect our like mind, body, spirit about this, and we don't want to jinx it, but like I'm thinking this is finally we're gonna have all from the beginning to the motherfucking end. I think we're gonna have like a really good Paige and Lindsay season, and that's all I've ever wanted because I think that they would be such an amazing duo pair. Like I think like I've been wanting them to be friends so bad because I think that they're both lovely, funny, beautiful people. And I think that it's just been one huge misunderstanding and if I'm
Yeah.
not understanding both on both ends.
I agree. And I think also, like, not that this is, I think, their motivation, but like, from a business perspective, I think them being friends is very beneficial because I could see that being a duo that moves on to Real Housewives of New York together or does
Yeah.
something else. Like, I think the audience is ready for them to move on. And I think there's a lot of potential in them as a duo in a way that them being these like enemies for no reason is just not beneficial anymore. But
Yeah.
obviously they need to get over their personal things before they can see the dollar signs and potential benefits. But I think them two coming in as like newbies on Real Housewives would be amazing. It would save Real Housewives of New York to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I just did a recap with Fry from TikTok
Oh wow, I
and
love him.
yeah, no, he's hilarious. We just recapped the first 6 episodes were like an overview of traders, and then we ended up talking about Bravo, and we did talk about like who we would like nix from the reboot of New York and who we would cast. We didn't put any of this like summer house people on, but like I could see in a world Lindsay or Paige being on like graduating to
Yeah.
that
I don't
franchise
think
for sure.
immediately, but eventually,
Yeah.
yeah. I Lindsay, I think could be ready sooner than later. Paige, it would feel abrupt, I think, to do that. Still think she has good years, especially if she's going to be single on Summer House. But also,
Yeah.
I don't know, when I listen to Giggly Squad, when I listen to Paige like talk about it, it does kind of feel like she like is a little bit over it on some level. Like I feel
Mhm.
like it almost feels like to me she's just doing it like out of obligation because she's been doing it more so. And maybe that will change now that she's not in a relationship and she'll be more like wanting to like go out and like meet guys or whatever. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's true. Oh my gosh, that's so true now that I didn't even think about that. Like now that she's single, like obviously we're not going to see it on this
Yeah.
season because it didn't happen yet. But for the next season, we'll have single Paige again. So that will be completely different. Um, I think that before graduating to Real Housewives, I think that there is another developmental show that could be done what they tried to do with VPR before COVID hit, before the firings of the cast had hit, which is to have a spin-off from Summer House. And they kind of do this in the more recent seasons where we have been getting to see a lot more of their life in the city.
Mhm.
But they're all doing such interesting things in their personal lives. I want to see more. I want to see more about that. And I'm not saying not to have a summer house, but like maybe it could be instead of like it could be during the year. So it doesn't it's not a direct conflict with summer house, or we're not overwhelmed with all the content. But it could be like during, like, you know how they have winter house, like it could be during that time period, but not a
Mhm.
winter house. They're not sharing a house. It's just because they are all actually friends and they do all actually hang out. So I would like to see their life in the city. And I
Yeah.
think that would be a really great transition too to the graduations of some of the people who have been on the show for longer periods of time, because they have a lot of stuff going on. And I could probably even integrate Hannah back in there because like she is a part of Paige's day-to-day life with Giggly Squad.
I know. I don't see her doing it, but I do wish. Obviously, she has gotten her redemption in many ways. Like, she has lapped a lot of the people on this show in terms of career things, and she gets her win in that way. But I would love
Mhm.
to see her at least just do like a one-off appearance to get to just be like, I'm doing well. Like, I without all of you, it would be a nice thing. But I don't know that she has any interest. But I think that's a really interesting idea. I feel like before last season, when Andy would talk about the show, or I guess when maybe like production or like the cast would talk about Summer House, they like led me to believe, I feel like, that there was going to be like a lot of city content in season 8. And there was
Mhm.
some, like I remember Carl and Lindsay having a decent amount of scenes in the city. But yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't that much. And I think it is just kind of like disruptive to try to do it that much during the show. So that would be
Mhm.
interesting to do it as like a separate entity. And I think that could do well. I would love to see Lindsay with her baby, like being a little city mom.
Oh, also speaking of Lindsay and her baby, I don't know how true this is. I don't know if you had time to see it, but Dumois' podcast dropped some tea that allegedly Lindsay and her baby daddy Brett was it Brett? I don't know.
Um, Turner,
Or
I think is his name.
Turner. Brett is Madison's husband. Um, Turner are split.
I know.
That's what the word on the street is.
I hope that that's not true. I actually meant to look if any like more real sources than Dumois had said that.
Yeah, I went to Lindsay's page right before we started recording, and she had not put anything that was a statement or indication, which doesn't mean that's not true. It's just she's not ready to do that yet or whatever. But that's just Dumois. And like, again, they're saying that they have inside sources, but I mean, who knows?
I feel like I don't know that this is actually true because I don't look that closely at Dumois, but my perception is that Dumois was fueling a lot of the Page rumors that Page is now saying were not true. So I'm a little
Oh, really?
I don't want to say that definitively, but I feel like it was Dumois hyping that up. So I'm not that inclined to trust them right now or ever. I hope it's not true because I really do want Lindsay to be happy and stable in this
Hmm.
phase of her life. But that would be unfortunate.
Yeah. I hope it's not true either, but if it is true, I am, because so far the way in which Lindsay has shared her relationship journey with her partner, Turner, I love the way that she's going about it. Like, yes,
Yeah.
they had a baby, but she didn't feel like, okay, well, you have to marry me. Like, she actually felt the opposite. She's like, we don't have to continue this because we are having a baby together. Like, I'm like not trying to make you feel like you're obligated to stay in this relationship, which I think is, again, another thing of growth, because we do
Yeah.
know how much Lindsay wants to be married, how much Lindsay wants to have that family. Which, again, I think another reason why I have such a soft spot for Lindsay is because I think a lot of people really dismiss her childhood trauma that she's been really open and vocal about. Like, she was abandoned by her biological mother, that her she and that has definitely, I think, impacted how she has relationships with women. And the reason why she does want to create her own family, so she can have some sense of control and to heal that missing piece that she feels is there. And so I feel like I always feel so bad when people are like kind of almost making fun of her for that, because it's like you're making fun of someone's lived experience and trauma. Like, that's not, that's, that's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, she is a person.
Yeah,
Like,
she is. Another reason that I don't want the breakup rumors to be true is that I just remembered in this trailer for this season, we see Danielle kind of like prodding and questioning her about the
oh, yeah.
relationship. And I don't want Danielle to have any vindication in that. Like, I hopefully they're still together. Also,
Yeah.
it, I will say, and I'm not talking about anybody specifically. It
Hmm.
bothered me the way that a lot of Bravo pages, like, were so desperate to like out who her baby daddy was. I was like, can you
Oh,
guys let that lady live? Like, if she doesn't want to say his name publicly, why are you like digging? That really bothered me personally.
yeah. I think that there's a fine line with creating content, and we're gonna all make mistakes. And sometimes it's like clearly what we're doing is talking about people's lives. We're gossiping, and I know I definitely have made some, like, I am very vocal, but the thing is I tend to try to be like, if I'm gonna like be really like mean or nasty, it's because it's like a very clear villain, like
Yeah.
Sandoval, right? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like people that it's like clear cut
Yeah.
that they're not good people. I'm not gonna go after, like, because maybe I didn't like, again, like, I didn't care for some of the behavior of Amanda and Paige, but I by no means I want to tear them apart because they're people and I can understand in all these little, the nuances. But I will tear Kyle apart because he is like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the balance. That's what I try to check myself because I can do really like harsh opinions, and that's like kind of like my moral compass. But to your point, it's like it's very clear that she was trying her best to protect that relationship, and I get it. Like, I think that I don't know if we should have been like,
Also,
have,
considering she was like outed as being pregnant way before she was comfortable with that happening publicly, like, I don't know, to not let her have her privacy about anything just feels like a little much to me. And I know there will always be the people who say, like, they put their lives on TV, like, this is what they're signing up for. And it is true on some level. I just think
I don't agree with that
we can
though.
be respectful just because they are choosing to put a specific section of their life on TV. That doesn't give us
Yeah. This
unlimited
is
access to everything that is going on in their life.
Yeah, I personally do not believe in that. I think that that's a ridiculous. I just personally think it's ridiculous to say that it's like, I get it. Yes, their job is to put a portion of their life on TV, but to me, it's a portion. It's what they have contractually been obligated to put on. So, like, yes, do I get annoyed if they're currently filming something and they're going out of their way to like mislead or like whatever, like, or like trying to like play producer. That
Yeah.
kind of annoys me. But I don't think that I'm obligated to know, like, when they take a shit in the morning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to be, sorry to be crude, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're not filming right now.
Yeah.
And I don't like think it's like they're not on it. What's that movie? Is it the Truman Show?
Yeah.
Like they're not on the Truman Show. Like we're not indebted. They're not indebted to show us every second of their life every day just because they're on a reality TV show. Like I think that that's not fair. And who knows? How do we know that Lindsay was going to come back? Like maybe she was gonna, like, that was simply gonna be off limits because like she's not coming back. I don't know. I don't agree with that. Like, I think that's also selfish of us. Like, these people need a little break, a little privacy.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, I guess I would say this is maybe going to come across as like weird or conceited of me to say, but like, I think I do reasonably well on TikTok without being extremely invasive of these people's lives.
mhm.
And I know that my kind of like commentary is a different section than like the like scoops people or the people who are always trying to get like the next big like headline before it comes out. I get that's like
Yeah.
a separate type of content, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something recently, and I'm not even going to say the name because I don't want to, but there was a situation where a Bravo celebrity's like relative had passed away, and there was a Bravo account on TikTok who like posted about it before the Bravo celebrity had made any reference to it happening publicly. And I was just
Oh.
like, like, we don't have to do this.
Yeah. It becomes like, like when TMZ posted those horrific pictures of Liam Payne's
Yeah.
on a live body. Like, I've been on TMZ a few times, and by the way, they fucking suck. They're horrible. Ugh, they're horrible. So when that happened, I was like, I'm absolutely done with TMZ because it's like a certain point where it's too much. And it's like, okay, because one of the gossip people that I used to really like, and then I realized they're horrible, and I will swipe past them immediately so they don't get a view, was the king of gossip rags, Perez Hilton. And I know that it's a bit hypocritical because I know some of the videos and people could pull mine and say like, but what about this and this and
Me
this?
too. Yeah.
But again, like I said, I have my set of moral compass, and I really try not to go after, or like, I don't, and by the way, that's not what I want to lead with my content, is going after people. That's not the crux of my content, but I'm a very fiery, passionate person. So I'm more so commenting on whatever I've just watched.
Yeah.
It's not about digging up things on people. And if it hasn't happened on the show, it's because if an interview that, again, I'm watching, is something that I'm responding to, something that you put out, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to dig anything up. And I also, one of my criticisms on some of, like even like Beverly Hills, for example, when I started really not like enjoying the show, and they've since course corrected, is the gang up mentality of like trying to literally ruin people's lives. I don't enjoy that. I hate
It's
that.
not good TV.
It's not good TV. I don't, and again, that's another reason why I think I come off as a Lindsay apologist. It feels like you're trying to break someone down. It feels like you want to ruin someone. And for me, when something like I have made some nasty videos, I'm not gonna lie, about what's her name from OC, Tamra.
Camera.
And I did that because I was like, and I literally started the video with, I'm giving you a dose of your medicine. You want to call somebody a drunk, you're a drunk. And now I'm going to list examples of how you are one. And it's because I was like, does it feel, I was like, and I literally said, does it feel good? Does it feel good to do that to someone? Like, it's like, sometimes I'm like, I'm just really just trying to combat what, give you a taste of what you're giving someone else. And I feel like Tamara's the type of person that never gets held accountable because everyone was fucking scared of her.
Yeah.
But
Bravo
again,
loves her.
exactly. But at the end of the day, I also like, I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. But I think it's there is a fine line, and there is a level. And yeah, I don't know. If that's a hard one.
It is. I will say, I will admit, since we're admitting people we've been mean to, I made really nasty videos about Lala and Sheena the last couple seasons of Vanderpump
Oh, I
Rules.
did
I'm
too.
not saying I'm a perfect angel, but we can be critical of their behavior without crossing the line into like digging up things about their personal life. I don't like when personally, and I don't know if you've done this. I'm not saying I've probably
Oh no, go.
doing it
No, you're
sometimes.
not going to offend me
The
because like,
people
also I'm not above being checked, because like I can like be like, hey, I did that and I probably should not have.
The people who like consistently make reference to Tamara's issue with her child, that feels
Mm-hmm.
to me. And I know
did
it's
do
something,
that.
it's
I
been
did do
addressed
that.
on the show, so I
I did
don't
do
think
that.
it's completely off limits, but I don't know that it's the main thing we should be talking about with her. It feels invasive to me personally. I will say she has consistently brought it up on the show against the daughter's wishes. So she's the one who has put it in play. But that's one where I'm like, there are a lot of things that we can criticize her for that aren't that. But it's
Yeah.
hard because it is true also. And like, I don't know. It's a
It's
difficult line.
it's so funny you bring that up, because I was about to be such a fucking hypocrite, because I was going to say the one thing that my moral compass is I don't talk about the kids. And then I was like, oh, I know I definitely did do that. I did do that. I definitely did that. And I want to say I regret it, but then I don't. And okay, this is why I brought it up. Again, like I said, I'm not trying to dig anything up. And that wasn't, like, to your point, there's so many other things to criticize Tamara about. And for the most part, any video I made was on that. And I had made one video that was mentioning the kids because it was a direct response to when Vicky made the comments on the podcast. So I was making a video off of that. And then I did feel like Tamara was using her children as a shield to retroactively make up for her bad behavior during the season. And she was putting out these series of videos that seemed very staged, like her going to Target with her granddaughter and with her daughter. And also she has talked about her kids on the show and how like she doesn't have a relationship. Like, I don't know. Like I was more so commenting on that aspect of it and yeah. But generally I don't feel great about that.
Well, now that you mention it, I did also make a video about when Vicky talked about it on the podcast, so we're all hypocrites. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, like
I
I
think I
mean,
said
yes.
it was wrong and she shouldn't have been saying that, but I still made a video about the kids. So whatever. It's a difficult line that we all are treading, and that's fine.
Right. Like, I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna end anybody for like, again, like I try to, I think that where it comes down to is if, again, like I'm not above criticism and I'm not saying, I, I, I look at some stuff, I'm like there's been, and I'm glad I've like waited on certain or making content because like I have an opinion. I'm like, does my opinion really need matter in this to like, cause again, like I'll be hypocritical if saying like I don't like a pile up on people. If I keep seeing all this content already about this person, do I really need to add to it, or do I actually have something like to say that's different? That even you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so there have been a lot of like really big issues that have come up where I was just like, they got it. Like, there's a
I
lot of content on that. I don't need to like. I am consuming it and enjoying it, but I don't know if I need to continue to be a
That's
part of it.
I felt that way a few days ago. There was a Bravo Celebrity adjacent person who was arrested for drug related things. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't have anything to contribute to this conversation. Like, the man is arrested. I don't need to comment. But
Yeah.
I get there are people who want to talk about every single thing that happens. And I understand that. I'm not criticizing anybody for that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, and to be honest with you, like, again, like, I will, if I have an opinion or if I'm really passionate about something, that's when I make the content about it. And I love Vanderpump Rules, Summer House. Those are honestly one of probably my two favorite shows on Bravo. And I've watched them literally since the beginning. And so I'm like, I know I have this like real passion for it because I feel like I know so much about it. And so I always feel like I want to just say, get my opinion out there. But at the end of the day, these are people. And sometimes I'm like, and I live in LA, I run into these people.
Yeah.
And I'm like a part of me is always like, did they see what I was definitely blocked by, what's her name? Joe blocked me.
Okay.
I made some mean
I made
videos.
mean videos about Joe too.
I made some, she blocked my ass. I was like, oh shit. Um, but like, oh, I knew what I was going to say. So I'm sure this happens to you a lot, but do people send you information or like they have like a scoop or whatever?
And I usually ignore it because I'm like, I don't
I
know
don't
who
want to be
you
that
are.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be that person. I haven't gotten a lot, but I have gotten enough. And
No.
one I did use, and it was Joe, and it was only because I had already made a video about Joe and her like because that's when she was making doing all those lives, and it was just feeling very swim. I compared her to Swim Fan. And that's what it was feeling like, where she thought she was in this relationship with Shorts, and I interclipped some Swim Fan clips, and I was like, but that was not what was happening. And then someone reached out to me and then it was also like this Reddit thread that was saying, oh, I know who Joe is. She did the same thing to me with my relationship, and this person reached out to me. And I verified it and all that stuff. And I asked, would you, and I was like, I'll completely like, block out your name. But I was like, okay, this is something that like would be, because Joe kept on making all these lives and being really weird. I was like, you know what? I don't mind, making this video. And I was like, oh, some of the things that people have been talking about with this particular subject, I have a source that's saying can confirm that this is this type of behavior. I had someone else reach out to me that was trying to fuel some rumors and I felt like use me to put out some really nasty, what would be nasty accusations about, I'm not even going to allude to who it is. And I had a long conversation with them. And at the end, I kept it cute. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, well, I hope that works out for you, like keep it pushing. And I just know they thought I was going to make some content on this. And I was just like, I will never make content on this because one, I don't believe it to be true. And two, I feel like you are doing this to destroy someone, and I'm not about that.
Yeah. No, I respect that. I would I usually just ignore those DMs when I get them. I think mostly it's about Summer House for me because I live in New York, which I did want to tell a story about that if we have a second.
Oh, yeah,
I
please.
had was because you were saying you've run into people. I had I willingly went to an event that I knew a bunch of Summer House people were going to be at a couple weeks ago. It was like a city winery, LA fire relief event, and it was hosted by Kyle. And I was like, okay, let me go. And it was like Kyle, Carl, West, Danielle, the new guy Imrul was there. It was like a lot of the men and Danielle of Summer House, which sounds about
Sounds about
right.
right. I was
But
gonna say.
but I was just like, yeah, what if they what if they know that I've talked shit about them and they like feel some type of way about it? So I like wasn't talking to anybody or like interacting or going up to anybody because I'm like, they probably, if they've seen me say hostile things about them. But West, I will give him credit, actually came up to me and he said that I come up on his For You page all the time. And he was like
Uh,
really nice about it, even though I've made a lot of videos shit talking West. But that was
mhm.
like kind of like, I was like, I respect that he did that because
Yeah.
I'm sure he's seen me say mean things about him, but he
Mhm.
still was like polite. And
Yeah.
that kind of made me feel better about future situations if I do run into people that I've talked shit about. I know people, somebody who lives in LA who has told me that they've had run-ins with Sheena when they've talked significant shit about her. And I don't think that Sheena's the kind of person who would go up and have a polite chat. But
Yeah, no, I ran into Sheena before. I've run into
where?
a lot.
Oh, really?
I've run into a lot of people actually. I can't really tell you where because technically I have an NDA. NDA is from where I work.
Good. Got it.
And I knew that that was a possibility because of where I work. And I was just like, and I feel like so far the people that I've talked about that I've actually bumped into have not recognized me, but I literally ran into Sheena. Like I was walking and then she was walking and we like met and she looked at me. And I swear to God, I'm not being delusional. She looked at me like she recognized me. But then he wanted to keep it cute. And then she just ran away, like literally ran away because she was in the middle of running somewhere else. And I was like, I made some videos. And Sheena is the type of person that if she is searching her name up. So like you could have one follower and if you made a video about Sheena, I wouldn't be surprised if she's seen it. So yeah, I definitely think she recognized me. One quick story I will tell you about something this is called karma. This is called karma. I was on my friend's podcast and had been recapping Beverly Hills and I had been really critical about Erica, as I feel like many people have been, and I think
Yeah,
rightfully so.
agreed.
And I ran into her at my place of work, and she was so lovely. She
Good.
was
I'm
so
glad to hear that.
she was so nice, and I didn't even know what to do with that because I have been so like critical and like downright like nasty because I just like I didn't love what was happening, and I still agree with my take on that. But I was just pleasantly surprised of how like nice and funny she was. But something happened during that interaction that was really weird, where it's online, but she ended up having a boot on her foot after that. But I was there for what happened and how she got the boot, and she had ripped off her toenail. She had open toe shoes and she had stubbed it on the staircase, and essentially she had a really important meeting. So she didn't want to cancel the meeting. And so she just kind of wrapped her foot up it without telling anybody that her foot was bleeding profusely. And no one knew. She carried on the meeting. She was like really professional, engaging. You would not know that there was a pool of blood under her.
Oh my God.
And so then she leaves and I discovered this pool of blood and I'm like, and then we find the toenail
Oh my God.
shortly after too. So we put two and two together, like me and like my other friends, like piecing it together. So then this is where karma comes in. I couldn't wait to tell my other friend who like was a big Bravo person. So I'm walking home or walking to my car at night in Beverly Hills walking in my car. And I'm leaving a voice note to my friend telling her this interaction that I just had. And like, I'm going in detail. I am just animated. And to the point where it's pitch black at this point. It's like probably, I would say, like almost 1 a.m. I'm like walking to my car by myself. But it's still a populated enough area where I'm like feeling safe, and it's in Beverly Hills too. So I'm feeling really safe. On the phone, leaving this voice memo, I look up for a split second and I see someone charging at me. I get mugged in this moment.
Oh my God.
I'm not even kidding you. I get mugged in this moment because they had been, I guess they had been following me because I was just like, not
That is
paying
not where I
attention.
thought the story was going.
Yeah. No, I got fucking mugged, assaulted. Uh, it was a girl. She charged at me. She looked rabid. And I happened to have actually I had a water bottle similar to this. And I had it in my hand. I had my phone in my hand. And I just start screaming and I start wailing. And she starts grabbing me and
My God.
and we're tussling in the street because I'm she's trying to pull me towards this dark area where it's not lit. And I was just from watching all true crime, I was just like, I can't let her get me over there. I have no idea what's over there. And then I saw there was a man over there too. So she had a second person with her. And I said, oh my God. So I just pull us into the street. I can feel her hands all over my body. And I was wearing a crossbody bag. And I'm screaming. Someone comes out. She gets distracted. And that was my moment where I get my head from underneath the crossbody. And I just started running like I was in the goddamn Olympics down the middle of the street. Until I got to where there was more people populated, because there was a club at the end, 2 to 3 blocks down, where people were waiting outside to get into. So I was like, I just got to make it to the people. And I literally, by the way, no one gave a fuck. Like that, I was screaming, I just got mugged. No one cared. I realized my phone was still in my hand. I'm thinking I didn't have anything, but I had been gripping up that fucking phone so hard that it was still in my hand. So I called 911 myself. Also didn't realize that my voice note sent. And so that whole attack got sent to my friend.
Oh my God. Well,
and she sent it to me. And so to the point where I was screaming and then it cuts out.
Oh my God. Did you finish your story about Erica's toenail?
No.
That's devastating. That is so scary. Oh my God. That is not the direction I thought that was going
I
in.
know.
What a day.
I know, but that teaches you gossiping where that gets you. So now I gossip from the safety of my home.
I was gonna say, I feel like we all still gossip a decent amount.
I was just it didn't deter me from gossiping. I just now gossip here.
It's safer to do it at home. That's so funny.
But yeah, that was my fucking karma. That was my
Wow.
karma right there, talking shit.
Well, I'm glad that Erica was pleasant in your interactions with her.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should change the way that you I mean, that's how I felt with Wes. I was like, I stand by every bad thing I've ever said about him, but he was polite.
Yeah, and I think that you can, again, you can have a great interaction, but again, if you do something on the TV that you put out there, I'm going to make my assessment from whatever you put out there. I'm happy to know that you're there. You can be nice, and that is a pleasant update. And I could have easily just been she was a bitch, because I want that to be the narrative. She wasn't. Mm-hmm. She wasn't in that interaction, but I still don't agree with a lot of what I saw on those last couple of seasons. I don't.
Yeah, no,
even mugged and all.
Standing by your opinions even after the mugging. I love that. I mean, you should.
But yeah, that was the craziest shit I've ever experienced in my life.
That is really wild.
And I lived in New York, and I've been mugged in New York, but muggers in New York are much nicer. That was a silent mugging. I fell asleep on the train, and they just took my wallet, left me alone. I was
they could have done worse to you, yeah.
I was I respect that. I did fall asleep on the train.
Yeah, when that happened, you can't be that mad about it.
They got what they wanted. No harm, no foul.
Left you alone after that, yeah.
They left me alone. I was
That's
thank
really
you.
Scary about the LA mugging.
Oh no, yeah, that one did traumatize me for a second. That was crazy. I did pick them out of a lineup months later.
Okay.
But that was LA people are wild. That was the time where a lot of people were actually getting mugged because people they were just targeting people coming from clubs or servers. It was a weird time.
Scary.
Don't come to LA. But going back to Summer House while we're here, I'm excited for the new season. I hope that, like what you said, that we have a really great season with all the women, and I do agree with your predictions of what's probably going to happen. But yeah, Are you gonna recap every episode, or are you gonna just like how
I'm
are you
gonna
gonna do
be
the content?
I'm gonna be doing every episode and probably a decent amount in between. Last year, the Summer House stuff did really well. There was a big audience for it, and as long as I'm sure that'll be the case again this season,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
gonna try to go in with an open mind towards everybody. I always try. Sometimes I fall
Yeah.
short, but we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
optimistic for the season, though.
Yeah, I agree. I'm optimistic for this season. I I think that I think this is gonna be a really good season. I'm optimistic for this season, and I hope. I know a lot of people are saying that Summer House should end. I don't want it to end. I think that there is a universe in which I think it needs to be like tweaked a bit,
Yeah.
but I think that Summer House can still continue.
I personally feel like it just hit its peak last season was the best season up to this point in my opinion, and I think that they can keep that if they can keep that going this season. I don't want it to end anytime soon. I would be really sad. I think Summer House and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City are like golden shows right now. I'm like,
Uh huh.
don't touch them at all.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there are certain shows that are just, like, doing so well. Yeah, I think poor VPR, they had an opportunity. They were given a second lifeline, and they really fumbled that one. I'm curious, also, I know that, The Valley is gonna be premiering soon. How do you think that I really was pleasantly surprised by the first season. I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it as nearly as much as I did. Do you think that they're gonna continue to do well in the second season, or do you think that it's gonna have a sophomore slump?
I think they're going to have a good second season. I'm very optimistic about that show as well. I think because similarly, I did not think season one was going to be very good. And then it was like so good. I was like, what is going
Yeah.
on here? I was like mad at myself for even watching the first episode because I'm like, I don't want to support Jax. And then I was like so
Yeah.
hooked. But I think they're going to have a great season too. I don't think Kristen would let them not have a good season.
Oh, Kristen's another person where I'm like, honestly, I love Kristen. I'm a Kristen apologist. I love that woman down. Like, even when, like, I also agree that she should have been punished. Like, I
Oh,
was one
of
of the
course.
main,
Yeah.
I was very vocal about like Kristen needed to be punished, but I don't think that what Kristen did and what Stassi did was in with the same intention and the same, like, I think that they did the same thing, but I don't think Kristen's was in the way in which Stassi's was, if that makes sense. And I just genuinely think Kristen's messy and didn't realize what her doing that, the implications or ramifications of what that meant was. I truly don't. And I don't think it came from that place.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I feel weird. Like I don't know that I'm the person to give the benefit of the doubt to her, but I do think she was at that time, especially, just so reckless with her behavior towards everyone. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
Stassi was always a little bit more like premeditated and
Yes.
calculated.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I see what you're saying. And I think
Yeah.
ultimately, Kristen, people like to act like she wasn't punished. She was off TV for several years.
Yes.
And when she came back, I'm glad that they confronted her with it and that it was a storyline last season because she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
deserve to not have that be discussed. I'm glad that it was. And I thought the way that she talked about it was reasonable. If it wasn't, she would have been dragged. But I think the majority of the fan base feels the same way, that she got her punishment and she's very good TV, unfortunately. So the
Yeah.
people want her.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually ran into her at Universal Studios once.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, it was like for her, it was like, I think it was not last summer, but the summer before that, maybe. And it was her birthday, and she bought the whole bar like round of shots.
I love that.
Yeah. She's like, I don't know. I just feel like she's like, again, she just doesn't really like, it, that's not an excuse of being like ignorant, but like I just think that's the simplest thing I can say for her. I think she was being ignorant in that moment, being recklessly messy, and she deserved to be punished, and she did. And I'm glad that it was, like you said, addressed, and she didn't try to make, like, I love that she was just like, she said it, like, yeah, I did that horrible thing, and she was like, I hate to be like Lisa Rinna, but owning it. She owned it.
She did. And I don't know that I agree with the people who think that the punishment should be she can never be on our screens again. I think if she was boring and did that and was like generally seeming like a horrible person, then sure. But I think the audience, all that matters is that the audience was ready to move on. And
Yeah.
ultimately Bravo is going to listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Ooh, well, thank you so much for joining me and talking about Summer House. Again, like I said, this is actually great because you this was the first time I was like having to like really review and check myself about things that I actually posted, and I let me do some reflecting about some of the stuff that I post. But
I didn't
it's a
mean
great
to call
reality
you
check.
out. No,
Oh no,
that was
please
never my
call.
intention.
Oh, that's like I said to you before coming on. We do not have to agree on anything. You can like that's to me the whole point of like these podcasts. Like I'm not trying to sit up here and like blow smoke up your ass or vice versa. And also I do think that like I could be reasonable, and if you can present something to me, I will be open to listening, and like maybe I agree, maybe I don't agree. And I was like, oh yeah, like, and it also, that is something that I, as a content creator, I'm like, I'm always struggling with this. Like, is it worth posting this? Like, what value is this bringing? Are you like, I don't want to be a bad person. But I also want to be able to say my opinion. So it's like, it's a really delicate balance, and talking to somebody who also does make content on similar things is refreshing because you go through the same type of thought process before posting.
And I will say, I don't say this to like, I'm not like just being nice. I think the fact that you even have those thoughts, I don't think a lot of people do. Like, to be blunt, I think there are a lot of people who will sit on the TikTok, who will open the TikTok app, say the craziest shit and post it and never think about it. So like the fact that you and me, the fact that we were capable of reflecting, I think puts us in a reasonably good place. I don't
I think
you should worry.
Thank you. Like, yeah, because I think at the end of the day, you do have to like, even if someone isn't like the person that you like or whatever, at the end of the day, everybody is a person, and everybody's a human being, and I don't want to be a person that like is going through like being mean. That's not. I might say something that's harsh or mean, but I don't think I'm generally a mean person, which is why I try to mix up the content. But like, yeah.
Well, another thing that I think about is like, if something like good happens, I feel like there are a lot of accounts that like will not post about it. Like today, the day that we're filming this, Madison from Southern Charm announced that she's pregnant, and I like had the mental thought of like, is that worth like making a video about? And I think a lot of people would not. I'm not giving myself credit for posting about it. Like, obviously, I have like ulterior motives in posting everything that like I'm posting it because that's what I do. I'm not patting myself on the back for that. But I think if you do post when good things happen in people's lives, and like post like, I really enjoyed watching this person in this episode, it balances out the like more negative and critical videos. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that unfortunately, if I don't know if this it happens to you, but I feel like the ones that where they're overly positive, you don't get as much engagement on. It's like people just loved the negative ones, and I hate that. I hate that. It's like, why can't, like, I remember I posted when Lindsay announced that she was pregnant, and like, I don't know. It's like you have like a bunch of people just being mean about her being pregnant. And I'm like, why?
That was unfortunate. And I really hope that the fact that Madison did the Clear Blue paid partnership also will make people realize that like Lindsay was perfectly in the right to do that. Like, let that lady make her money. Who cares?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. That's again another example of like, why are we mad that Lindsay had everybody? But the thing is, every celebrity does it. I've seen that Clear Blue ad with almost anybody that's ever been on reality TV.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a rite of passage, and it's probably a great check for this new baby coming in. Like, I don't see anything wrong with
Lindsay on the Trading Secrets podcast, I don't remember because it was like a month ago, but she like alluded to how much it was, and it was a substantial amount of money. I would have done the same thing. Like, good for you, Lindsay.
I wish someone would care if I got pregnant right now so I can get one of those deals. I wish.
Well, maybe one day.
I have a wedding to pay for. Like, somebody help me.
Well, congrats. I love that.
Thank you. But Shash, again, thank you for coming on. I love your content. I'm going to continue to be looking to you for, especially with this new season of Summer House. I'm actually going to be recapping Summer House weekly. I decided with my friends. But if you ever want to pop in and give your take, I know you said you like being a guest. The door is open.
Great. Thank you so much. I love hearing that.
Summer should be fun. Josh was very fun. I want to give a big thank you to Josh for coming by, popping off about all things Bravo and all things Summer House. I love his takes on things, and I love that we were holding each other accountable for some questionable, videos that we made. But at the end of the day, they all came from a good place, and and I think that it is a fine line of creating content and trying to be entertaining. And I enjoy the conversation about how sometimes, like, even though we feel like we're doing it, sometimes we miss the mark as well. And no one is above criticism is what I took away from that. And I love that we are both open to seeing some of our shortcomings, but we also are here to say, you're still doing a good job. You're doing amazing, sweetie. So thank you, Josh, for coming by. And hopefully we see him again here on the pod, because I feel like once the Summer House starts up, I will have a lot to say. And next week's episode on Pia Pops Off is going to be, again, keeping with the theme of summer. We are going to be popping off with Jordan, a castmate of the spinoff from the original Summer House, Martha's Vineyard. And Jordan and I will be talking about everything Summer House Martha's Vineyard, the 2 seasons that she filmed, and her experience and what she's up to today. So that will be so fun. I can't wait to have Jordan on the pod. Well, thank you so much for listening. I had a great talk. I always have a great time talking about Bravo and specifically Summer House. And I hope that we can all have a conversation, even if we don't agree. I want to hear from you because, again, like I said, like Josh and I were talking about, it's great to hear all sides of the coin, all perspectives. So if you have a perspective that you felt like wasn't covered or you want to add to the conversation, the comment section is your friend. So don't be afraid to leave your comment, whether you agree or disagree. We want to hear from you. But thank you. I will see you back here next Wednesday with Jordan to recap, review, and revisit Summer House Martha's Vineyard. But until then, what does Pia always say? Oh yeah, pop off!